It's Dominic here from Esports News UK. Thanks for joining us today. We're back with another special interview, live video interview powered by MSI. And, you know, historically here at Esports News UK, we have covered League of Legends. However, there is another smaller MOBA out there as well that maybe we should cover a little bit more as well. And that's Dota 2, of course. So we thought, why not do one of our interviews powered by MSI, focusing on Dota 2, looking at women in esports. It's a really important topic, and diversity in esports. And we've got two great personalities from the Dota 2 esports scene today. We've got Reinessa, who's a well-known host and content creator in the scene, and she's going to be interviewing Ruby, who is a community manager and also a player. Recently won a silver medal at the Global Esports Games in the Dota 2 Women's Tournament, and she's also COO of Dota Valkyries, which supports women in Dota and esports. So, really delighted to have the guest today and to have you watching. Please feel free to ask your questions in the chat, and Reinessa will do her best to bring those forward and ask them to Ruby. So thanks again for joining, and enjoy the interview.
Hey, thanks so much, Dom, and thanks both MSI and Esports News UK for having us here. Although, I think I have to be a little reserved with that thanks on the small little MOBA you maybe would have heard of comment. But you know what? Before we get into any of this interview, we dive into anything about Ruby or any of those things. Ruby, important question, break the ice. If you could be any Miyazaki character, any of them, any of the movies, you want to be Howl, you want to be the beast from Princess Mononoke, you want to be
Oh my god,
Ponyo.
that's such a tough question.
Who are you picking?
I think I can't remember her name. The girl from Howl?
Sophie?
Or Kiki. I love her.
Okay. Sophie or Kiki? I mean, that's a pretty good answer. Okay, well, now that, we've gotten that was the hard question, all right? We had no idea what I was going to ask. Like Dom said, I'm Reinessa, and you know what? If you found this interview, you are in for a treat, because I've known Ruby for a while now, and she has a laundry list of experiences and wonderful things to talk about, especially to dive into UK Dota, which doesn't get enough coverage. So that's what we are here to fix. So like you heard in the intro, but maybe you're joining a minute or two later, Ruby is one of the founders of Dota Valkyries. She's been a community manager for some of Sir Action Slack's different projects. You might know some of her wonderful emotes from your favorite pro stream. She's got a silver medal for representing UK Dota. Ruby, are you ready for a rapid fire section to quickly introduce you to everybody watching?
Yes, so ready.
So ready. Okay, what's the highest MMR that you've ever had?
4,350.
Wow, okay, really knew that right away. Core or support?
Core.
Okay, what's the first video game you ever played?
Oh god. I think it was my brother's Buzz Lightyear video game. I can't remember what the name was. It was really good though.
To infinity and beyond. What a choice. And now I know a lot of Dota players like to deny that we do this, but I'm just never going to believe it. What's your favorite mobile game?
Mobile game?
Yeah.
What's the one you're running on the trains? It's like Temple Run, but like new.
I'm not going to have a clue.
Subway Surfer.
Okay, that sounds cool. I play like a dress-up princess game, so your answer is better than mine. If you were to pick, do you prefer to watch TV shows or movies?
TV shows. Binge TV shows, though.
All right. Is it GIF or GIF?
GIF.
Thank you. Good call. Of the 5 main senses, which one would you say is the best?
Sight, I think.
Okay, that's important for Dota, so good call.
Or hearing, yeah.
Yeah, both very important. What's the best like Tesco's meal? Best like quick stop at Tesco's pickup?
Falafel and hummus wrap, and I would always get orange juice and Sunbites.
Okay. And what would you say is the UK's greatest strength in esports? Our talent pool, actually.
Yeah, we make the best talents.
The UK definitely exports incredible on-camera talent. Now we're working on playing talent, because that counts. That counts too. So let's just talk about UK esports, UK Dota a little bit.
Sure.
Lay out the UK scene for me. What do we have going on there?
Right now we have a pretty thriving university scene. At NSE, they run a league, a year-long League 3 seasons, and they have about 40 to 50 teams from universities. So it's a really popular, or somewhat successful Dota scene that we have from the university level. We have, I think, 4 or 5 in-house leagues running independently of each other with a majority UK participation. So we have like so many players that really want to have that competitive experience and that taste of competitive play. And we have representation in the pro scene for Dota. We have Exantic, we have Tana, we have all these really talented players at the top level. What we don't have is sort of a unified scene. Everyone's quite spread out, which is what I'm trying to build now as we look ahead to the future.
Nice. Yeah. And we are, for those watching, we are going to talk about Ruby's community efforts and everything in a little bit. But before we do that, I want to dive into a little more about you, Ruby. We had that brief little snapshot. How long have you been playing Dota?
I started just before TI8. So around August 2018 was the first time I played the game. So I'm quite
you
new.
Hit 4K MMR already? What? Excuse me. It took me like 5 years in extreme coaching.
Well, I've had a lot of help. I have had a lot of help from my friends, and a lot of pro player help as well.
Hey, well, whatever that is. Yeah, whatever that is, I'm glad you're leading a community, because my goodness, new players, like, you're gonna have the easy road through Dota, apparently. Wow, I didn't know that. I've never asked you that question before, and I'm a little blown away right now. Yeah, wow. Okay. What would you say is the most compelling aspect of Dota? Like, what pulls you into it?
It has to be there's like so many games are miserable, as is the case in every game that you'll play. So many of the games you play are just horrible, and something goes wrong and everyone gives up, but then you get once every 20 or 30 games or so, you have that perfect game and your teammates are kind and funny and you get along and it's just like your old friends, and then you work together to do like combo moves and you win fights, and like even if you're losing, no one's flaming anyone, and it's like everyone's just chasing that one game over and over and over for years and years.
Wow, chasing the elusive. I mean, it's
the
not a unicorn.
One good game.
Yeah, but I know what those games are. I had one last night. Those mega creep comebacks that just make it all worth it. All right. Well, I'm glad we're on the same page there. So we've hinted at, we've talked, we've mentioned a lot of different accolades for you, and you obviously wear a lot of hats in this space, like pretty much all of us do.
Yeah, everyone.
Well, yeah. What would you say is your favorite kind of work to focus on within Dota? Like, what do you light up when you get to do it?
I think anything that I see the results on how it affects people. So community management was always amazing to me because everything I did positively affected a bunch of people at the same time. And then I could see the results of that, and I could see how happy it made them. So community management is like a really good place in my heart. But team management was the same. Just sort of being able to help people and being able to see that, see them smile because I helped them, or have their gratitude or whatever, was like, that's what drives me forward, I think.
Well, that's very sweet. I gotta say, it isn't playing pro. You didn't love that experience?
No, I did. I actually really did love it. But not so much for the playing. I've never wanted to be a pro player. I've never wanted to do anything like that. But being in that team environment and having everyone sort of work towards that common goal, and then like even when we lost in the grand finals and it was awful, and some of us were crying, I was crying, doing it together was like an amazing experience still. And I'd go back and lose again if I could.
I'd go back and lose again if I could. I'm gonna get that framed. All right, that's gonna be. I want it on a mug. All right, I'm gonna drink my tea and have that as my Dota motto.
I love your mug.
For those. Thank you. I have a whole sassy collection. Some of them are not appropriate for maybe an interview. So that can be a discussion for another time, and we can go back to this playing experience, right? We said a silver medal for the UK. Now, from what I understand, a lot of that came from the British Esports Association's Women in Esports Initiative, right? That's sort of where it originated. Yeah.
I mean, basically, it all came from them. They did all of the
Mhm.
work, really. So much time and effort and money that they put into making sure that it was successful. And we had a lot of setbacks. A lot of players suddenly couldn't go. You know, we had to organize flights, and there were so many restrictions with COVID going into Singapore.
Mhm.
I didn't see all of the work that they did because I was on, you know, I had to go and move into a playing position because one of our players had to leave. But I knew how hard they were working behind the scenes.
So, how did sort of this all come about, right? How did you get connected to their Women in Esports initiative? How did you learn about it?
Well, they reached out to us. I think the CEO of Dota Valkyries, Emma Catfish, um, she was reached out to by Alice, who previously was in the Women in Games uh, initiative, I think, as a
Mhm.
representative. So both ambassadors for Women in Games, and they connected that way. And then when they created this Women in Esports project, it seemed like a perfect fit. I mean, we're based in the UK, and they're trying to do exactly what we're trying to do. Um, so it was it's a great, just a mutual beneficial relationship that started.
Yeah, it's very cool. I had no idea, unfortunately, that it existed until I saw you all going and competing and following that news.
Oh,
It was
really?
fascinating. Yeah, that was how I learned about it all.
Right.
And so I appreciate all that work that you're telling me about. And so, what exactly was the Global Esports Games? That's what you went and competed at, but where did that all come from?
So I think it's the Global Esports Federation were looking to
Okay.
create a tournament that was supposed to. I don't know if it is supposed to be, but it's similar to the Olympics, right? Where you have countries from all over the world send their teams to compete in an esports event, and they win gold, silver, bronze medals. There's no actual financial prize for, but it's about
Hmm.
representing your country. Um, and I think Chester, the CEO of British Esports, was closely involved in with the Global Esports Federation. So we had that opportunity, and then when they chose Dota, we already had that connection through Women in Esports, so they could reach out, and we helped set up the teams.
Wonderful.
And it's really great that
So,
they chose. Really great
oh,
that they chose male and female teams and had that
mhm.
like extra representation. Go that extra mile to make sure that everyone can compete and have that experience.
So who were your teammates, right? Who did the final five end up being in Singapore?
I'll go from 5 to 1. So we
Okay.
had Lily Lanaya, who some people might know just from Twitter or Instagram. She was our POS 5 player, really good Ancient Apparition player. Um, and then in 4 we had Song
Hmm.
from the Pyrian Flax community, and she was a superstar, just really great mental attitude, like calming people down, cheering people up. She was always there and always doing the right thing at the right time. And she also was probably the most improved player on the team.
Hmm.
Um, then in our POS free role, we had the amazing Bel Miku, who stepped in as captain. She helped me draft. She took on all the responsibilities that were left behind when Sheepstick had to stay in America for the DPC and couldn't play with us. So
Hmm.
yeah, she was fantastic. And then me in the mid lane, and Lucy, who was our POS 1, who stepped up massively when Sheep had to go and I was already playing. We needed another player, and she was great too.
That's quite the team. I know a few of those names, but some of them are new to me, and hopefully we keep hearing them.
Hmm.
I love hearing about sort of the improvement that you get from playing in that experience.
Yeah,
It
and
shows
not
how
just the
valuable
improvement.
it is.
It's
Hmm.
not just the improvement, it's the desire to do better. Like when we
Hmm.
lost, everyone came away wanting to be so much better than they went into that tournament suddenly. Even if you didn't care
Hmm.
about it before, or you just went for the experience, it sort of makes you feel like you want to improve at the game when you have that taste of competitive play.
Hmm. So I do have to say, this was Singapore. This wasn't one town over for you. This wasn't, a quick hop on a train or anything. This was a major trip. Was this your first time traveling for esports?
It's my first time leaving the UK,
Okay,
and
wow.
my first time on a plane, so it was quite a lot.
Did
uh,
you go solo, or did your
no,
teammates and you all
actually,
kind of
we went as a
gather?
full team,
Okay.
with the exclusion of Bella, who I think had to catch another plane. Yeah, so it was
Mhm.
5 of us or 6 of us. on the plane. So it wasn't so bad, you know. It was like, I did think I was going to die when the plane first took off. But after that, it was okay.
Was the landing also the we're gonna die, or had you calmed down by then?
I mean, it had been 13 hours and I was kind of like ready for it if it did happen. It was like, I just need to sleep.
A 13-hour plane ride for your first experience is a little rough. That's
Yeah.
small space, long time, more power to you. So you land in Singapore. This is your first time majorly traveling. You know, what was the best thing about Singapore? I know there's lockdowns and it was restricted, but
It was,
you know, what did you love about being there?
I mean, for me, it was just like, it was funny how similar it was to being in the UK, except all the trees were different. It was way hotter, and like, it was just like, it was like a weird culture shock because we were still driving around in cars and that was normal, but everything else was alien and strange and beautiful. The trees are so beautiful there. Probably the best experience was because we were staying in a 5-star hotel, super deluxe. One night just before we left, me and Belle stayed up until about 5 a.m. drinking local alcohol and just looking out on the balcony at the city, and it was like really beautiful. And that was a really good memory for me.
That sounds so serene. And you know what? That's a good memory to keep in mind while I ask about stressful things. As much fun as playing video games for a living sounds to people, right? Because that's essentially, even though you're playing for a medal and not a cash prize, this is still very similar to the pro experience. There's
Yeah.
obviously stress associated with that maybe the casual viewer doesn't think about. And I'm sure you were expecting some of that stress. But I'm really curious what the most surprisingly stressful part was that you didn't expect.
I was prepared for so much of what had come because I'd spoken to so many people, and I knew that I wouldn't get stressed out by anything that happened in the game because I was expecting to lose my lane. I was expecting so many things to go wrong, and they all did, you know, as expected, and that was fine. I think what stressed me out was definitely the preparing, because there was so little time in an event like this. You have one day to play both games, so you don't have time to prepare for both teams, you know, immediately. And just having so little information about the Singapore team that we were playing against. After we just finished our match, we've won, all those, you know, feelings of happiness and whatever, suddenly have to ignore all of those and then get straight into preparing for the next team that we know nothing about, and, you know, hoping for the best. That was really stressful.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great answer. That's definitely something I don't think people think about. You win, you're excited, and then you're immediately like, no, you do not get to be excited. Focus. That sounds rough.
It is, yeah, it's really hard. And it's the same in all tournaments. I think teams will have days where they just play multiple back-to-back games against teams, and it's like they have no time to prepare for what this team is throwing at them. It's really tough.
This is something good to keep in mind in the next TI group stage when it's just, you know, bonanza games being thrown at you all over the place. Yeah. Which hopefully teams have a break between, but sometimes they play back to back, and that's just how that schedule works.
And it's the same with qualifiers. I think qualifiers are probably where it's hardest for like just any event. Is like you do not get a break. You just play and then wait for the other team to finish playing, and then you play them, and then you wait and then play them, and it can be like 8 hours of straight, you know, against total randoms that you've never met before, and they'll throw totally different strategies at you.
Yeah, they can be a meme stack with nothing to lose.
Exactly.
Playing some Huskar broodmother awful concoction that you have no idea what to do with.
And you just have to pray that you don't get that stack.
So I know one of your goals with Dota Valkyries is to help more women gain access to the competitive scene in Dota 2, right? What did you learn from this experience that you think will be really helpful in pushing towards that goal?
It doesn't matter, and this is something that I wasn't expecting to learn when I first went into it, is after meeting the other teams that performed, it doesn't matter about sending the best team that you possibly can. What matters is sending as many teams as possible. No matter what rank you are, what MMR, whatever, if you go and you have this experience, even if you lose horribly, you will still feel that competitive drive. You'll still have that experience, and then meeting the other players. I just want as many, like, I want to send as many Crusader teams, as many Archon teams as possible to these events so that they can have that taste, and then next year they'll be Legend and Ancient, and then they'll, you know, it's about giving them that motivation, right? It doesn't matter about
Mhm.
sending all immortals to an event. What matters is getting them that drive to improve where they are. So yeah, definitely looking to expand how many people we push to into that competitive space if we can.
Was poetic. Ruby. That was so inspirational. I love it. So let's talk about Dota Valkyries, right? We and we had some people in chat that wanted to hear about Singapore, and I think you covered that really nicely. And I want to talk about Dota Valkyries now.
Sure.
And not Wordle scores. All right. We will talk about Wordle scores at the end.
We can talk
Thank
about
you.
that. Yeah.
But I'm sure you've been asked this a dozen times. We've obviously brought up Dota Valkyries a bunch already. But for anyone here who hasn't heard the spiel yet, where did Dota Valkyries come from?
I think, I mean, I've said this so many times, but Sheepstick, who's a community figure streamer and a friend of mine, we were just talking in 2020 in her Discord, sort of saying, what actually needs to happen? What needs to happen for women to break into the pro scene? Like what do we need to do to get to the point where this is possible? And that conversation evolved into actually that we're finding things. We actually are finding real things that we can do. And that sort of broke down to the point where I reached out to people and I found Catfish, who has done so much work to make it happen, and Dota Valkyrie sort of evolved from there. And then, sorry, talking too fast. The original goal was always to get women into the pro scene. That was our, initial point. Once we'd started creating the org and we saw how long the timescale would be to make that happen, how many barriers there were, how many problems to solve, how much funding we needed to try and find, work to do to get that. Our vision sort of expanded, and we just tried to do as much work to help the community, help everyone that we can, the streamers, the casual players, everything, because at least while we're working towards that goal of getting women into the pro scene, there's so much more that we can do, and that was sort of our goal.
So women, I'll give you a moment here. Women, they're not the only ones who face challenges, right? We're never saying that. But, if we're talking about women specifically, they often have obstacles when it comes to gaming and esports spaces. And like you said, there's so many things that you need to do before you can achieve those goals.
Yeah.
I say, how do you stay positive in the face of that adversity and all of those barriers?
There are definitely times where I've given up. I think after TI10, which was a generally very bad event in terms of feedback for women specifically, I did give up at one point, and I had to take a break. I had to take a month out of just, I'm not going to do anything because this has been a lot. But it's Emma. It's the volunteers, the people that work on the project that bring you back in and sort of make it worth your while, because they're putting so much of their time and effort in to make it happen. And you don't want to. It's not even a codependent or like problematic thing of like you don't want to let them down, so you feel forced. But it's like you just want to help them make their dream and your dream come true.
And so it's just relying on a community that you've been a part of building to keep everybody going, which is the point of a community. So, like, well done in building Dota Valkyries that it runs that way. Okay, so take me through this Dota Valkyries team, right? Who are the people? What does it take to keep something like that and you running and motivated?
So it took a while for us to create a real structure, but right now we have, I think, 8 or 9 people in management roles that are overseeing 40 or 50 people in volunteer roles. So we have, like a design team and a media team, and then we'll have people like Dora, who runs our social media, and her assistant, Chaos Hound, or we'll have Casito, who runs a full design team of like 4 or 5 people that help us, create social graphics and everything. And it's our tournament team, which is like 12 people, and even more volunteer admins. It's like and then of course Catfish and Sparks, who have done so much work. It's I can't really explain it.
Yeah, that's it's an impressive team, and it's a passionate
They're
team.
great people. Yeah.
So what's the next step for Dota Valkyries? What's your next? It can be a micro goal, it can be a big goal. What do you want to do next?
I mean, speaking totally honestly, and I am trying to make this happen, I want to run leagues specifically for women of
Mhm.
all levels to get them interested in competing. I want to work with TOs in every single region around the world to make sure we can run that. So a league in EU, a league in CIS, a league in NA, a league in SA. I want, SEA especially. I want to run all of these leagues at the same time, and work with TOs to make that happen.
So we're gonna very briefly
Mm-hmm.
touch on women in CS:GO, and just
Sure.
say CS:GO has had a long-standing competitive female scene,
Mm-hmm.
and Dota has never really had that. Have you ever sort of dove in and asked yourself why there's the difference there?
Well, CS:GO had from what I can understand, CS:GO had pushes early on in its life to include women, and that
Mhm.
came to a sort of a women's scene and a men's scene, sort of separated. Um,
Mhm.
I'm not. I came into Dota 2018, and I don't have the history or experience to comment on what may or may not have happened before in comparison to CS:GO. But I know it was a very hostile place. I know it was incredibly hard for women to be casual players. I know it was very hard for women to be impossible for women to be talent. And the ones that made it through all of that,
Mhm.
it was like it's amazing. Um, so to go and be a pro player, to be involved in this community of like other pro players that shared secrets and tips on how to be the best.
Mhm.
There's a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of issues in the way, and even though we've had players that could go pro, even now we have players like Gia who chooses not to go pro because she has other goals, but she is at the level
Mhm.
that she could become a professional player. It's not really worth it because the space isn't welcoming. It's going to be it's a can of worms basically that needs to be opened at some
Yeah.
point, but we need to try and put in the effort to clean it up as best as we can before we have to open that can of worms.
So, I will ask then, maybe not everybody needs to open the whole can of worms, but how can people get involved? How can they help out?
Well, we're always looking for more volunteers that are passionate and trying to make our goals happen. And we work in every corner, nook and cranny of Dota. We're trying to improve life for women. So in streaming, we have a bunch of different programs running. You can always reach out through our website, which is dotavalkyries.gg. And we have a form on there. You can come in as a volunteer. Or if you don't really want to do any of that, I would just ask you to, if you're a woman, please speak up on Twitter, on any platform, on Steam, in your games. And if you're a man or just anyone, just if you see someone saying something that isn't cool, just tell them it's not cool. Just speak up. Make sure that it doesn't get left unresponded to. I think
Mhm.
if we all fight this battle at once, then it just becomes so much easier.
Yeah, it becomes easier for everyone. It's very well said. So the last time I interviewed you, it's been a bit.
It has.
I asked you what the one thing you hoped you could accomplish in Dota would be, and I went and I wrote down your answer, and I have it in front of me. So I'm
Okay.
gonna read it for you, so that it's fresh in everyone's mind. So Ruby originally said, "I would extend the lifespan of Dota by at least 5 years, helping to create systems and enact change that generate interest in our game, both from the community of esports fans, but also the larger pool of PC gamers that haven't taken a bite out of Dota yet. If I can generate more interest from the community, it should also bring more attention and support from Valve and create a positive loop." With the recent major cancellation and the communication strategies that we've seen, is this something that you still believe in?
Oh God, I was very hopeful back then. I would say the recent major has highlighted it's been an extreme low. The fact that Valve
Mhm.
didn't communicate anything beforehand, even in situations where we had players in Kazakhstan that needed to know way in advance so that they could leave the country due to political problems, and Valve was just dead silent. It's sort of, we hit rock bottom. And after their sort of half-assed announcement canceling the major and saying how they're going to do some changes or something, they did come out, they apologized, and the apology was good, and they said that they are committed to making more changes. And I have heard that they have opened lines of communication with all the teams directly, and they are actually working to do better. And my previous experience says it won't last, and it's somewhat of I don't want to criticize Valve too heavily, but I would say it's, you know, it's somewhat like it will be fixed for a little while and then it will go back to how it was. But I do believe that if Valve sees someone doing something to 95% of the way, they will step in and finish it with the 5% or the 1% more work that needs to be done. And
yeah, Lairth and JJ would love to talk about that theory.
yeah, finish it or steal it, you know, it's a fine line.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's give them a hand, right? If you could design your dream DPC system, what would it look like?
I don't know. Is that bad? I have no idea.
That's okay. Not everybody has to theory craft on that.
If I were to be put in charge very suddenly of the DPC, I would probably immediately call about 20 different people and ask for their advice. And I've spoken to the players, and I know they're not satisfied with one game a week. I'm not sure if that's because it's not enough or if it's too much. But I can imagine it's too much, having, you know, as soon as you finish your game, you have one day of rest, and then you're practicing for the next game. So I can imagine it's quite intense for that long period of time. But yeah, I have no idea how I'd fix it. I'd ask a lot of people for what they think. Probably Knoxville, first of all.
Yeah, I think Knoxville's usually a pretty safe bet for what is the most optimized system. Okay, so you said one of the things, create a positive feedback loop, you know, create more content in the community, push things forward, make Valve listen. What would you say is the area Dota content is lacking the most in, right? Do we need more funny YouTube skits? Should we have more pros streaming? Do we need more new player content? Do we need more written content?
All of the above, probably. I think the biggest problem is that we don't have people consuming the content that does get made that is outside of their current bubble. So we have everyone just watches Twitch all the time, and they watch 12-hour streams of someone queuing, you know, spam queuing pubs and doing no real content other than playing the game. And if we want the game to sort of thrive in a content world that we're moving into, we need people to start doing TikToks and doing, you know, I see you do more effort in your TikToks and reels and you know, all of that content than anyone else I've seen. And it well, except for Beast Coast, who are really good at it too. I don't know what it is that we need to do to get the broad Dota audience interested in content outside of gameplay. I'm sure there's someone smarter than me that could find the solution, but that is what needs to happen. And then we open the gates to all of the new content that we need to create. Definitely.
Okay, so for everyone watching, we've got a couple of your questions set aside that I will ask Ruby. I will ask her about Wordle. I promise, Trill. But if you have questions, if you're in chat and you want to ask anything, go ahead, put them in there while you think of them, while you go through stuff. We got a couple of things we got to ask Ruby to build the perfect profile for her as, you know, a gamer, an esports nerd, etc. So Ruby, are you ready? This is going to be another little like quick thing. Okay. What is your favorite Dota 2 hero to play?
Morphling.
What? Okay, now I get why you got the 4K. I understand. Got it.
Morphling, Ember Spirit, Invoker, all of those.
Okay. Understood. What's your preferred screen resolution?
2K, which I think is 1440 by 2560. I think.
Don't look at me. I'll trust you. Sounds right.
Yeah.
Works.
2K.
All right. What's your mouse DPI setting?
800. It's been 800 for 10 years or however long I've been playing.
Do you play shooters?
I started in CSGO and then Overwatch and then PUBG before Dota.
Got it. Okay, that tracks. So if you had to rate yourself out of 100 for the following skills, we're gonna have you score yourself out of 100 for each, and no false modesty. Give us the real answer for mechanics out of 100.
Compared to people at my current level, I'd say 85.
Okay. Reflexes.
60. I'm not that good. 80.
Okay. Aggression.
100.
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
I approve. Communication.
Probably 0. I have
No.
all chat disabled. I guess I ping. So let's say like 30
Okay.
for communication.
I'll allow that. I'm giving you 100 for communication based on this interview, though. Just so you know.
Oh, thank you.
That's my number. Mental fortitude.
Well, that's definitely my biggest problem. I have a lot of issues of anxiety in ranked, and if someone beats me or my plan that I have in my head goes suddenly wrong, I really struggle to recover. I'll say 45. So I
Okay.
do win some games.
Okay. All right. So there's a little fast ones. So first and most importantly, what is your longest Wordle streak? If you know.
I always play Wordle on incognito on my phone. So I have no idea, but I haven't got any wrong yet. So
okay, 7? So it's probably pretty good.
I've only been playing for a week, so about 7, I think.
Okay, that's not too bad. Now, it's the same question source on this one, but if you could only play one game for forever, is it Dota or apparently is it Smash? I didn't even know if you played Smash.
I do play Smash.
This is a troll question.
I'm new to Smash. Probably Melee, probably Smash, I think.
You played that for forever.
Probably, yeah.
Wow.
Over Dota, yeah.
Got it. Or you know what? Chasing that one game in Dota takes a lot more effort than just beating somebody else. And
they're so much longer. I mean, 5-minute games in Smash, I could play like 100 games very easily in a day.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fair. You know what? I'm with you. Good choice. I'll take it. Let's take it. Okay, we're gonna sidebar a little bit. Who do you main? Who are you picking?
Sheik.
Okay.
I love any hero with a mask, really. TA, Sheik, just.
So I will say I played a lot of N64 Smash as a very small child with my older brothers, and my brother was a Kirby picker. So I hate Smash like deeply because I could never do anything. Just jump brick.
That was my brother did the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's just
a universal experience.
Yeah, it's just they were given a manual that we didn't get, and that's just it was pick Kirby and just terrorize your siblings. That's what happens. Okay, we'll go back to Dota though. We don't need to tangent on that too much, or I think we'll feel way too much rage. What are your plans for the next Valkyrie Cup? When can people expect that? Because there's several people in chat who are pretty excited about it.
Oh, really? Well, it is in the works right now. We're working on 2 tournaments. I think things have been sort of delayed by the start of the new year. I mean, as soon as the new year happened, I immediately got COVID, was knocked out for 3 weeks or so. So all my plans just, yeah, you too.
Same. Got back from Christmas and my partner had it and then I had
it. Yeah. So we are working on things, and there's been small delays, but we are getting back on track probably within the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And I think within the next couple of months you should expect something from us, so that without saying anything more.
Okay, good. All right, so Ruby has chosen to go with the very standard esports choice of an announcement so stay tuned for the announcement. It's been announced. No, I love it. It's great. No, best strategy. Absolutely is the best way to make Dota Valkyries grow. I'm all for it.
Yeah, we got to do everything.
Okay, so we talked a lot about the I don't want to say GEG like GEG, but the acronym's really fun to just be like GEG. Are you planning on being involved with their next event? This is Global Esports Games, by the way, for people who don't know what GEG is.
Yeah, we're cool. We use GEG. Yes, I think so. Definitely, because I think there has been some confusion. I'm not quite sure where it's taking place, but definitely next year's event, I want to be involved. The year after, I'm not so sure that I would feel confident involving Dota Valkyries, since it's going to be in Saudi Arabia, and that's not so doesn't quite match our principles when it comes to women in gaming. But yeah, I think it's still a good initiative. As long as it's in the right place.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay, so I think that catches us up on questions from chat. Before I let you go, and I've got a list of shoutouts to do, and obviously you should follow Ruby on Twitter and Dota Valkyries and all of those things. But Ruby, what are your shoutouts? What do you want to share before we close things off here?
Thanks everyone for supporting Dota Valkyries. It's been almost a year since we started. I think just over a year now. We launched in March, but we started in November of 2020. So thanks everyone for making that happen. It's been incredible. It's been insane. And we've done more than I ever expected us to really be able to do. Thanks to all the volunteers that have made that happen. Special thanks to Hoxie Loxy on Twitter, who's very funny and you should follow her. And to Tidpy, who probably don't need to follow, but best friend, thank you for everything.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out here with us. If you want to follow Ruby, her Twitter username is Valkyrja Rubies. Like, it's really, I'm hoping someone's going to put it in chat to kind of help them out with finding that. It's kind of spelled like Valkyrie, but there's a J in there, and it's a fun name. It's just, good luck. I'm Reinessa. If you want to see me yell about my pubs, that's up to you. But most importantly, we got to thank Esports News UK. We have to thank MSI for supporting this content and everything. So you're going to do esports_news_UK on Twitter to follow them and see what other content they're doing. There is, I believe, a CSGO interview coming up next at an unannounced. I'm announcing an announcement of the time of the CSGO interview as well. So you can follow this channel. You can follow them on Twitter. So, once again, thank you, UK Dota, Esports News UK, etc., for setting this up. Thank you, Ruby, for your time. Thank you, MSI, for supporting this. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We really appreciate it. And Ruby, it's been absolutely wonderful taking this deep dive with you.
Oh, you too. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye.